morning and welcome to the vlog. I wanted to share with you a fun place we decided to come. Our family is on a bit of a road trip, and one of the places that we wanted to stop was Cade's Cove in Tennessee. Now, Cade's Cove has quite the history. It was a small community in the early 1800s, and when the government decided to start buying up the land around the Smoky Mountains, they bought all the land around Cade's Cove and then began to pay the residents for them to move, buying their properties. Now, a lot of the families moved. There was about 1,500 people, I believe, in Cade's Cove at the time. And some of the old timers were not about to leave their home. So they had a lease that allowed them to remain in their homes until the end of their life, or until they had decided to move for whatever health reasons, or to go with family. And at that point, then their properties became property of the government and part of the state park here. Now there are 17 buildings along the Cave Cove loop that you can find. Many of them you have a small hike to get to. But this first one that I stopped at and I wanted to share with you is a primitive Baptist church. And so let's go take a look. Okay, I'm going to show you the outside of the Cade's Cove Primitive Church, Baptist Church. We will not be going in. They have a program going on at this time, and I don't want to interrupt the program. And so we're going to take a look around the cemetery they have here. Now, as I mentioned, there was a lot of people here in Cade's Cove at the time when the National Park Service decided to buy the land of the Smoky Mountains around it. Now, one of the attractions to Cade's Cove was the terrain here was perfect for them to be able to farm and be able to grow their community. Now the cemeteries here in Cade's Cove do have a rope path, as you can see, and that is in order to help protect the old graves that are here. Okay, and there are my two munchkins walking ahead of me. My daughter is playing photographer, doing the still photography for me, and also keeping track of her brother so that he doesn't run off. Joys of autism. Okay. Now here you can see there are some graves that are just these little tiny stone markers, and the markers are so old that you can't read many of them just from being worn from age. And that here's but I'm really overwhelmed with just how beautiful and peaceful this cove area is. The drive through here is absolutely beautiful, and all kinds of wildlife. Okay, I'm not going to draw too much attention to a lot of the graves out of respect for the families and that, but I wanted you to be able to get an idea. Now there are 3 old churches still a part of the Cove Loop that you can visit, and I believe each one has its own cemetery, although there are more cemeteries than just those three through the cove here. Okay, there's a better look at the Baptist church. And as I said, they do have programs that go on with the church here. And when there's not a program going on, you can go inside and look around. But with them having a program going right now, I am not going to interrupt it. And you know, I would feel like it was an interruption if I went in there to film. And but just look at the beautiful woods and how tranquil this area is. Okay, this is Cade. This is the Primitive Baptist Church, and on to the next stop. Okay guys, this is the old Methodist church here in Cade's Cove. And as I mentioned before, a lot of these the cemeteries, we are going to find them at the churches. Now this one does not look like it's having a meeting, so we'll go ahead and go inside. And please excuse the noise, but there are other people involved. Okay, now the pews in this church are original to the church. But it makes you wonder just how many people were married and other services performed in this building historically. I love when they have the upright piano. If you have a chance to come to Cade's Cove, it is free. They do have donation boxes, and at some of the locations to help in preserving the buildings that are here. But it's really interesting to me that this church is so old that I'm going to see if you can tell from here. But the windows, I'm not sure if the camera will pick it up, but the windows are actually rippling. It almost looks like a water effect, and that from the glass. And again, a lot of your headstones here are extremely worn. They do have the designated path in order to help preserve the headstones that are here, and that some of the original ones, you can see they are extremely degraded, and that just from the weather and age. There are some newer headstones in these cemeteries that I've noticed. For example, here's one where the person died in 1965. But a lot of these are original to the people who actually lived in Cade's Cove prior to the park taking the community over. And here's another shot of the outside of the church. This little bell tower. And on to the next stop. Some people may wonder why the settlers came to Cade's Cove in a land so full of these beautiful mountains. Well, right here is what you're looking at is part of the reason why. These beautiful grounds that you see and that the meadows were perfect for farmland. Plus there was a lot of wildlife here for them to hunt and to be able to supply food for their families. A lot of natural rivers and waterways. But take a look at the view here. It's absolutely stunning. I can see why the people of Cade Cove settled in this area. It's just majestic. Coming here, I'm sure, felt like a paradise to them. Hey guys, I'm at the old mill here in Cade's Cove, and you see it behind me. We're gonna check out the buildings here. There's a house, some barns, and a lot of really neat stuff to see. So let's go. Okay, here's the house here at the mill. Now they do have a crib here, which they would have used to store, especially their root cellar type foods in the winter. And now, see in here they have storage, and then like the bags there. Back in the day, that would have been used to where they would hung smoked meats. Now, if you look at a distance, right between them trees, it's like a wild turkey out there. That goes back to what I was talking about earlier, how this area had so much wildlife and the natural resources that were available to people that it makes a perfect sense why the people of Cade's Cove would have settled here. One thing I do notice about these homes is they were very tiny, and that by today's standards. If you can imagine back when they built this, you had actual families living in these places. Now here, look at the masonry work on this old fireplace. Chances are that fireplace would have been used not only to heat the home, but also for meal preparations. Now this is a familiar sight to me. Reminds me of the little stove I have in our house at home. But again, here you see the masonry work on these, just the flat stones from the rivers and things that and then just using the mud for the mortar. Now, but it's hard to believe when you look at these old homes that back in the time when these homes were built, you had large families. You had easily 6 to 8 children, plus the adults, sometimes plus the elderly parents of the adults living in these structures all at the same time. This room here is probably the only one I think I've seen that does not have a heat source. So more likely bedroom. Well, this house did have an upstairs, but it looks like they have blocked the upstairs off. And that probably for safety reasons. Yeah, this door's locked. This door probably is what led to the upstairs. I did not see an entry point in the downstairs inside. So that could have actually been a two-family home. Now, they say not to feed the wildlife of the park. So I think these two native creatures, I'm gonna have to stop feeding them. No more gummy bears, no more soft pretzels, no more ice cream.
Shut up, Mother.
Well, it says not to feed the wildlife, and you two are pretty wild.
Shush! Remember, we came out of you.
That's why I know you're wild. Okay. One thing that's fascinated my daughter on this trip, and that through these mountains, is the fences. These fences were very typical of the time. They didn't have the fencing materials that we have today, and and if they did have access to fencing materials, it was expensive. So they used what they had, and they used timber, and that which they just stacked on top of each other to form the barriers. This barn is really interesting. Now, I saw a couple of rangers, and I said, I am not 100% positive on what type of barn that is. I'm going to go ask the experts. I do apologize for any shakiness in the video. I'm using a cheap gimbal that I've got because I left my other gimbal at home by mistake. So I'm kind of limited to what I was able to get on hand. Now look at how beautiful this area is. Question for you. That large barn at the very end, what kind of a barn is that?
The large barn at the very
Yeah,
end.
like the two sides at the under?
You would, the basically was a drive-in bar. Their wagons would drive on there. They'd be able to put either tools or any other crops and everything on either side.
Do you mind if
That's fine. And then basically, they also could store livestock on the other side if they needed to. It was a good way to keep multiple things out of the elements,
Right.
and then to safely also load and unload things.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's a cantilever barn is that one over there.
Okay.
You'll find another one at the Tipton Cabin, another 2.5 miles down the road,
Great.
and that'll be on the left side of the road when you go along. But
Now, what all do they use this mill for?
I mean, mainly it was primarily to grind corn. So in the Smokies, we didn't have. We would grind wheat, but the cash crop, corn was king.
Right.
For sure. Sorry, corn was king. Not the cash crop was honey usually. Instead of using it as a sweetener for a lot of their coffee and things like that, people use sorghum cane to make sorghum molasses instead. Honey was much more hard to find and hard to cultivate, but it was worth a lot of money for trading, for selling, making money. But corn was the primary thing that was ground in our mill or the Mingus mill over North Carolina side. And I mean, they could change, different grinding levels. Right now it's out of commission. We're trying to have another part created to get it going again. But she was running last year, and we'll hopefully have her going before the end of July, but it's still
Yeah. That's great.
a stage we don't know where we're at yet.
Yeah.
But it was primarily corn. It was also a good social spot, so people coming from around, whether the Cove or the area, people would trade information or.
Well, I imagine it was a meeting
Items.
place because people would bring their corn to get milled to be able to make their food at home, and it became a conversation area. Kind of like the old general stores with the checkerboards, and
And the miller made like a commission of sorts where he could, he brought in a certain amount of corn to grind down. I would get this certain amount and had his own
Right.
box that he could be able to keep or use for trading and stuff like that. Too.
right, that was his pay. It was like a barter system,
Right.
similar where they bring it and then he keeps a portion as his pay and they get the rest. Yeah. No, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay. All right, cool. That look at the construction of this. I mean, can you imagine working on that wheel? How much work it would have, how much weight that had for people to have to install? It's amazing. Okay, now the other barn that he was speaking about is this one coming up.
More rounded. It's not quite as pointy.
Here we go. And then there's the water that goes from here and then on down toward the mill. Here is very old equipment here. Okay, now you can see the blade there. That was it was used for cutting either hay or possibly the corn stalks. And then you can see these yokes that would have been used for hooking up to the horses or the oxen or mules. just be careful. Any buildings you go into, watch out for snakes because they will hide. They'll hide under stuff. So
Yeah, you do not go in there.
yeah. Now looking at the floor, I wouldn't walk in there because there's too much small stuff laying around. But you definitely want to watch out for snakes.
Thank you.
Watch them. Watch out for snakes.
Yeah. Have you been down past the mill to the house
This is
yet?
our first time ever here.
Okay. When you go down to the house, there's a small building that would have been used like a root cellar, and it actually has a sign down at the bottom. You can look in there, but watch out because there could be a snake inside there. I was filming that and I didn't see a snake, so it should be good. But it gives you a good idea of how they stored their food storage because they've got muslin bags, which is like if you had smoked meat, it would have hung in there. They would have had baskets. It was like their root cellar for winter. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, here's old wheelbarrow. Look at that. I mean, talk about old school. The wheelbarrow actually had a wooden wheel with a strap of rubber put around the outside. And then more farm implements. And then here's a trough for feeding your livestock. And then this side is probably more of the same, but being used for storage now. Now this would have been another animal stall back in the day. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to get my camera in there. Show you. Let me see.
Stick pictures inside.
Okay, now this, for those that don't know, this is what they would have used to rake hay. And that back in the day, they would have had a team of horses attached to the front. And then I had a relative who actually still had one of those that was in working order and showed us how it worked with his horses. Okay, then an old three-prong plow. And there would be your wagon. This would be how they hauled everything from their hay to their corn that they harvested.
Oh, you had it on video. I must have hit video, so it didn't take pictures.
And then here's the other side of that. Now, if you look, you can see where they used excuse me, where they use hatchets to actually cut these timbers. Some people may wonder why the settlers came to Cade's Cove in a land so full of these beautiful mountains. Well, right here is what you're looking at is part of the reason why. These beautiful grounds that you see and the meadows were perfect for farmland. Plus there was a lot of wildlife here for them to hunt and to be able to supply food for their families. A lot of natural rivers and waterways. But take a look at the view here. It's absolutely stunning. I can see why the people of Cade Cove settled in this area. It's just majestic. Coming here, I'm sure, felt like a paradise to them. Okay, this is the Dan Lawson house in Cade's Cove. And you can see it's right off the drive. chimney. Now look at the foundation that they put on these houses. The foundation is actually just the stacked stones. Oh, careful that one board. Now this one has had the mortar replaced, and that instead of the clay mortar that we've seen at the other cabins, this one has it looks more like a concrete.
That's where the boy, usually the men slept upstairs.
Usually what they did was the downstairs was the main living area
Tim, watch for wasps, there's a wasp.
of the house, and that there's the fireplace, which, as I mentioned before, in the fireplaces in these homes served not only to help provide light and heat, but quite often they were also the method they used for cooking.
Oh, you guys, look over here.
There's bats over here.
Is that a bedroom up there?
There's bats.
Yeah, babies. I think they're babies. They might be regular
You
size.
see- Yeah, you see all this.
Yes.
You see all the.
Yeah.
Here-
That's where they slept, the boys did.
Bats. Oh. There you go. A little bit over that way.
Yeah, actually, I'm not afraid to.
She's like, oh, let's sit in the
Aren't they
dog.
neat?
Look at that. The whole cluster
Bats.
of bats.
Bats. Yeah, there's a whole cluster of them over there. Oh, wow. That's what we were looking at.
Yeah, they're right about here. Well, you see all this?
Yeah.
If you see this on the floor, that is their dung,
Yeah, that's not.
and you do not want to get that anywhere near your eyes. You don't want to breathe it in, really.
Oh, absolutely. You don't want to breathe it in at all.
Now this is the upstairs, and I'm going to go as far as I think I can without. So you can see. Now the upstairs, this is where the families would have had the bedrooms. Okay, now you can't go all the way upstairs. They have a gate, but they do let you up a little bit. But be very careful. These steps are real narrow.
I'm only 50-something pounds.
I know, honey, but what I mean is that by narrow is they're real small. Is your mom or dad with you?
No, they said I could run here.
Okay. Okay, be very careful going upstairs. Right above that, there's a cluster of bats on the other side of that beam. Okay. Here's your back porch. It,
There's a door, there's a gate. But you can see up there.
Hey, Abby, come here. You're going to want to see this. There's something in here you're going to want to see.
I swear to God.
Do you have your phone with you?
Yeah.
Okay, because you're going to need your light. Come here. That's okay. You're going to need your light, Abby. Come here. Okay, guys. It's time for me to get my daughter.
Oh, guys, here's a tan.
Come here. Stand right here. Stand over here by the wall. Because you need to face that way. Come here. Come here. Now, look up. Use the light. There's your bats.
Hi, Batsy Batsies. Be quiet.
Yeah, there's a whole. Yeah, here, Abby, bring your light here a second. You'll need a light. But right here, see that? That's a whole cluster of bats.
Oh my gosh. There's bats in here.
Right up there.
Yeah, right here. Yeah, that's all their dung there. But yeah, if you look right here.
There's a whole family of bats up here.
Yeah.
They're bats.
Yeah. Right here.
You all kind of got the same mark, so make sure you say thank you. Look, baby. Over here.
Oh wow.
Hey, Micah, stay here.
You see him?
Oh, this is a good vlog moment. Getting the bats. Yeah. Okay. Well, that didn't work out like I planned. I thought sure my daughter would freak out when she saw them, and I thought I was going to get her.
Mother, you know I love bats. They're adorable.
Well,
They're not like Dad.
I know, but some people think bats are adorable until they come in close proximity.
I don't freak out unless they get in my hair. Then I freak out. Otherwise, they're adorable.
All right.
Batsy.
Okay.
Not much else up there. Just the granary and...
Right. The grain barn and the...
I don't know why those ones go batsy.
Now, this is a very typical construction, the tongue and groove. See, and that building them that way, there was no way those things were coming apart. Now, this would have been a grain mill or some form of storage for the farm. It's kind of fun showing those bats to everybody. You never. I said it's kind of fun showing those bats to everybody because you never know how people are going to react.
Yeah. I didn't think I was going to react.
You know. Well, I wasn't sure. You can smell the wood in this one. Okay, now I'm not going to go to the end because I heard some other people mentioning that there's a lot of bees, and I am very allergic to all biting and stinging insects. So if I know ahead of time that there's bees or wasps or hornets, spiders, anything like that that can envenomate you, I have to avoid it like a plague. But there is one more cabin coming up that I am wanting to take you guys to, and that cabin is one of the ones that is reputed to be haunted. So we're going to find out. We're going to go there and see what we can find. Anyway, until the next one. This is one of the grain cribs of the Tipton place. The house, the property known as the Tipton place. Let's see. The type of construction they had here, they would have used this to store their grains and things. And then down there, they have another one of those barns that you can pull your wagon into and unload, or you could feed your horses or other animals from that location without them having to be in the weather. Now, I'm going to try and get across here. Across the street is the homestead for the Tipton family. Now, this homestead is one of the ones that they say is haunted. So we're going to walk around and see what we can notice. With the amount of people around, I'm not sure if we're going to pick anything up or not, but we'll find out. Now, first off, this is probably would have been used for storing supplies, possibly things for the home. There is some shelving in here, and then you can see that beam across there. That could have been used for hanging dried meats, smoked meats. And here we have a small stable, or more likely, instead of using it as a stable, that may have been a place where they stored firewood for winter. Okay, I love on the roof how you got all that moss that's built up. You can see the stone of the fireplace. And again here, the construction of the foundation, it was placed on rock. And it's amazing that houses built in this fashion actually stood the test of time.
I need to carry one.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
Did you tell her we saw the bears?
You saw bears?
And two babies.
Three babies.
Oh,
Three
wow.
babies and one.
That's amazing.
Up in the tree.
They must have come down to say hi to you. Okay. You know, it's a shame. Every structure we've gone to, you can see where people have come in and vandalized. And that they've written on or used knives to etch their names. It's sad that people think that they have to leave their mark that way. And there's a good chance we're going to have bats in here again. So I see the scat from it. I don't see. Nope, no bats. Not like the other cabin. Now here's, you can see in the old construction, again, for the mortar, this is like a clay, a locally sourced clay that they used instead of the mortar that we're used to seeing today. You can see it there again in between the timbers in the cabin construction. Ah, there's the bats. That is so cool. I am one who actually enjoys bats. I think they're awesome. Okay. Oh. It's amazing the smell that you have in these old buildings. Just, did you see the bats? Oh, right here. I love pointing out the bats to other people because you never know how they're going to react. She was curious, which is cool. Okay, there's the back porch. And I'm looking to see where, okay, let's see if we can get upstairs. Some of the buildings, I guess, they've limited the access to the upstairs on account of safety. But one thing about these old stairs, though, I've noticed is that, unlike today, there's no handrails. Now there you can see there's a door to go into another area, but not knowing the condition of this floor, I am not going to be walking on there. Now this is one of the houses that has a reputation for hauntings. And honestly, I've not felt anything. Usually I'll pick up an energy, I'll feel something, but I really don't here. So it may just be a hit and miss thing, or maybe it's just some people come with the idea that it's haunted, and they, you know, they've heard the stories for so long that it's just, you know, they believe it, and so therefore sometimes the mind can play tricks. But anyway, that is the Tipton cabin, and we're almost through the drive around the Cade Cove. So it's one of the last properties in the drive. So we'll catch you after we get done.